Welcome to the Great Life Experiment podcast. I'm your host, Monique Schaefer, and together we'll grapple with our messy, beautiful, and ever-changing personal and professional lives and the business world around us. I deeply believe there is no one right way to do this thing called life. Let's experiment together. And as a quick reminder, please note that this podcast is an independent production, and the information presented here reflects my personal opinions and does not represent the views or positions of any organization or company that I am affiliated with. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Great Life Experiment podcast. I'm your host, Monique Schaefer, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Today, we are joined with Heather Clark. Heather Clark is a licensed therapist specializing in marriages, and she is trained in I had to write this down, EMDR. So we'll go into what that is about, but for trauma therapy, and trained at the Gotham Institute as a couples therapist. And Heather, we got connected through a mutual friend of ours because we are both high-powered women, but we also are connecting to the other parts of our lives as well. And you specialize in working with high-achieving, high-performance couples. And you are the creator coming out this summer, which I'm so excited for everybody to get, High-Powered Love Method. So thank you for being here today. And I'm glad I'm in LA for us to do this in person.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure meeting you. And like you said, with the way we were connected, I knew immediately that we were going to connect, and it's been great getting to know you in our conversation. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for people that don't know you, tell them about your practice. And I guarantee you so many people's ears perked up. They're paying just a little bit more attention than they were if they're driving or at the gym about high-powered love and high-performance couples. Because I know so many driven people, the amount of dual income, high achieving folks, they are in it together. Everybody is still talking about how do we prioritize our relationships, our marriage while we're both doing it. So tell them about your background and tell them about high-powered love.
Yeah. So I started my own private practice, and initially I was seeing individuals and couples. And like you mentioned, I do have the background in EMDR, so I was doing a lot of trauma work. And it
Just for people, what is EMDR? Just so people listening know what that means.
Yes. It is eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Okay.
So it's a miraculous way to work on trauma. And it's hard to really understand how it works unless you've actually had it done. But it can really take someone who's been in therapy for years and still felt locked, like they couldn't get through something traumatic from their past. Mm-hmm. That same person could walk in and do a handful of EMDR sessions, and there's a complete switch. It's really remarkable how it works, actually. But so that's part of my practice, and I started seeing individuals and then realized that the universe started sending me couples, lots of couples, and they had very similar stories. They were successful, high achievers. Oftentimes, the man and woman, both very successful in their jobs. A lot of times they had kids or sometimes before kids, but here they were like just crushing it in life, like doing all the stuff, meeting all these goals they want personally and professionally, maybe even health-wise. Mm-hmm. And they would come into my office because something wasn't there for the relationship. Mm. Here they're sitting with this person who they love. They're committed to them. They want forever with them. They want the happily ever after. But something's just not connecting. Mm-hmm. So as I started understanding that so many of these people have this similar story, I really started to begin to see how it's very unique. It's a unique situation because it's something where they've learned how to prioritize the goals they want to reach. They've learned how to reach the huge accomplishments they want, but this thing that is so important, love, the relationship just isn't there. So I really started trying to help them gain some tools to work on that, and ended up discovering a lot of similarities underneath.
Yeah. Well, let's go there.
Okay.
Tell me about the similarities that you're seeing. So you have two people come in, both full big careers, successful in their own right. I'm assuming probably your office needs to be on point because you have people that are very like, they need to be efficient. We need to get in, we need to get out, we need strategies. We are going to achieve this.
Yes. And what do we do?
What are we going to do?
Yeah,
We are
tell me
going
what to do.
win at love. How do we do this, Dr. Heather?
Yes. Well, and there's a few different pieces to that, but one is, first of all, one of the biggest complaints is we just don't have time to work on the relationship. We don't have time. And when there's jobs and there's kids at home, that's so understandable. But if the relationship isn't at the top, everything else is going to fall apart. Your relationship really does dictate the quality of everything else in your life. Like there's a different level of richness in your life when you're feeling fulfilled in that relationship. So one is helping people learn how to prioritize the relationship over some of those things.
Okay.
And I know, like, when you and I have talked,
Yeah.
it sounds like you have some experience with that in your own relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben and I have been together 20 years, which is why we met when I was 21.
It's a long time.
So now
Wow.
everybody knows how old I am. And we waited those 6 years to get married because I think we both had the awareness of we are going to profoundly grow and change. And so getting more established in ourselves as individuals before becoming a couple. And I'm so glad out of all the things that I did not know in my 20s that I had that wisdom that came to me and to both of us of
Yeah.
knowing ourselves. It was important to me that I lived on my own for a while, that I knew how to manage my own money. Before we ever joined finances, we both needed to be out of debt before we combined finances, especially since I had student loan debt. That took a while to pay off, but I at least let him know what he was in for. But one of the things that changed, and I've talked about before, is because we started with nothing and it was always just us, that was always the foundation. So we weren't introduced to each other when we already had successful careers or independent lives. We formed our lives together and we knew that we were going to grow and change. And one of the big things that we've talked about with each other is, and I've said before, I will take care of me for you if you take care of you for me.
Oh,
You
so
do
good.
your work, and then we will come together as our best selves. And also that we have the privilege to be the witness to each other's journey. Like that is what I'm saying as your partner,
Yeah.
that I am the witness to all of it, to the everyday, to the big things, to the small things. And it is your journey. I am a part of your journey, but I am not the journey. And so knowing that we had to be there for the other person and let them grow and change, but it's like I have to be present with you. And so over the years, it's like we had that foundation, to your point about commitment.
Yeah.
That is the core of who we are. And we both say that probably in the end, one of the things we'll be most proud of is our marriage.
Oh,
And fighting for that.
so beautiful.
I didn't realize I cried my own podcast. So there we go, folks.
That's because you're here with a full heart.
There you go. This is what a therapist does. Within 5 minutes, they get you to cry. We got tissues on the Schnell book here.
Best way to have them.
But once you start to grow in your career, and it's 40-hour weeks, it's 60-hour weeks, and then trying to rein that in so you're more effective, so it's not taking up that much time. But then you add kids into the mix, that changes the dynamic. And we were coming out of the fog of the really, really early years. And it was, I'm so committed that we are not just best friends and roommates. Like, how do we date each other? How do we make time? And it is always like, you have to make it a priority. It's not just saying
Yes.
it is a priority.
Yes.
And then we stay there. So it varies from week to week. Like I'm gone. This week I'm here in LA with you all doing a workshop and recording, and he's home holding down the fort with the kids. So we'll have to find that time, but we still talk before we go to bed.
Well, and so that right there is huge. It's having those rituals in your life where you have those points of connection.
Yeah. Say more about the rituals.
Well, I think it can be different for each couple, but I think it's important to establish what a ritual is for you that you can both rely on no matter what.
Yeah.
So you're out of town or out of the state and he's home. Okay, well, you know that you're going to call and say goodnight to each other each night. So there's like that, it's like an anchor that
Yes.
brings you back to each other. So you have this super busy day, but you come back to each other. And for some people, the ritual's in the morning. It's maybe they have their coffee together in the morning, which a lot of times that's kind of rough too, and people are rushing off to work.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting up 10, 15 minutes early to pray together, to sit outside together, to just be with each other. Maybe it's even like listening to something motivational in the morning together.
Yeah.
So really sitting down and being intentional about it, like, hey, what are some rituals that we can have in our day? Maybe we text every day over lunch. And they don't have to be big because, let's be real, you don't have time for big, lengthy things. So having those little rituals.
I have a girlfriend who was on a previous episode. Bless her. She is the queen of planners, and she schedules everything. That does not work for me. But she puts a note in there for herself. She's like, even though this sounds so unromantic, text my husband and tell him I love him, because he's a words of affirmation guy. That's important for him to hear that. And so she has it in her planner.
Okay,
Because
I
she's,
love it.
Yeah, because she's a founder of a wealth management company. She's busy. She has a big job. So
Yeah.
it's text him that I love him.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what I'm referring to with the rituals.
With the rituals.
It's having those things. And as much as you might not be a planner, I'm not a planner, and I know there's a lot of other people who can relate, who are more go with the flow type
Yeah.
people. We're going to get it done, but we're going to get it done as it comes to us.
Yeah.
With relationships and two busy people, there has to be some planning.
Yeah.
So a lot of times will work with couples to have a couple things that are set. One is a weekly time together. This might be a coffee on Saturday morning. It might be a lunch date during the week. It might just be a half-hour window where on Sundays in the afternoon you have a half hour where you can both do this. But each week you have a set time where you'll both be there. And over that time, you're talking about logistics. You're talking about the house stuff, the finances, all of those things, all those messy things that aren't really that fun to talk about, but have to be talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kid stuff. It's the schedules. And also in that, there's going to be a piece of it that's going to include, hey, here's what I have coming up. I'm going to be out of town this next week, so I might be a little less available. Or maybe your partner has something big coming up. Hey, I know you have this big thing coming up. How can I show up for you this week? How can I be there to support you? So having that. And then separate, you have your date night once a week. Doesn't have to be out to some fancy dinner. Maybe it's you're ordering food in, but you're being intentional about it. You're being intentional about calming yourself, being in the right energy space to be there with each other.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that I like to suggest for couples is more long-term things. Like, what do your staycations look like? What do your vacations look like? Maybe it's once a month we're going to have a one overnight staycation somewhere. Maybe it's, once in the summer we're going to go on a week-long vacation. Whatever it is, getting those on the calendar.
Yeah.
As much as planning might not seem exciting, if it's not on the calendar, it might not happen when you have two busy careers. So
I have so many questions.
love it. Okay, bring on the questions.
Well, the first one is a noticing. So for this theme of making things a priority and we do what we plan. What I heard you say with the weekly time together, that is your logistics time, or as Ben and I call it, Schaefer Company Limited time because
love
we
that.
run the family business, but naming it like
Yeah.
that's what we're going into. We got to talk about logistics, get our calendars up and schedules. But the thing that I noticed, that's not just talking about logistics and being transactional. You pick this kids up. Can we switch drop off and pick up? You put in there support and talking about this is what I can give and this is what I need.
Yes.
Is that fair? Was
yeah.
that-
Yeah, completely. And it's going to vary each week. Like you might be available to give more for your partner one week, and there might be another week where you're out of town, you're out of state for several days, and you're not there for as much. So it's really a check-in. It's a balance, a back and forth. Like you're a team. You're running a business together, your family business. And so in that, how can you balance it? How can you shift the weight back and forth? And also put it out on the table. So you're talking about it. So there's no surprises when you're less available come Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
Right.
He knew already coming up. And he might have known your travel plans.
Yeah.
But still just voicing it. Saying,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to be really busy on Thursday and Friday.
One of the things that I've noticed is it's the logistics and the schedules of the family, right? So the family business side of things. But like we are both in tech. And even though we are in the same industry, I am on the product side and he oversees the global revenue operations. So he's on the sales side of the house. So we joke that combined we're one SaaS company together.
Yeah.
He can do the sales and revenue and I can do the product side, which is great for a lot of times when we sit on the couch at night and be like, I'm thinking about this work problem. Like give me the RevOps perspective or give me the product perspective. But also communicating to the other person, like, where are you from like an operational cadence? Like, oh, we have different fiscal years. You have a different year-end close than I do. You have a different quarter close. I have a different, I have a launch date when he doesn't have the concept of that because he's not launching product. And so trying to not assume, even though he's even in the same space or because he has a big job too, of like, this is what's happening, but you don't need to know all the details, but this is what it means to me.
Yes.
This means, babe, I'm going to be in decision fatigue. Like I'm going to walk out of this office because I have a week of like 8 hours of meetings every day. Please don't ask me to pick dinner. I won't be able to make that decision. Like I can't give that to you. So I think that the personal side with the family, but then also not assuming just because the other person is also working that they understand what's happening in your business, or if somebody is staying home, then they for sure don't know, what you're going through.
Well, and what a gift you're giving him by sharing that with him. You are giving him a gift. You are setting him up for success.
I will remind him that this is a gift when I tell him that I'm in decision fatigue and he has to pick out food.
But you're sharing that with him. And the number one thing in relationships is how can we set each other up for success?
Yeah. So question for you.
Yes.
So I hear my listener right now. I hear her and him saying to me, yeah, I would love a date night. How do I do that with the kids? But the big one in particular, I think people can figure out, we could get a babysitter. Somebody else could watch the kids. We could do something for date night. But it's the number 3, the long-term thing.
The longer.
With the staycation and vacation, I hear her and I hear him because it's my voice in my head being like, he has a milestone birthday coming up. We really need to go away. I would love to go away for 3 or 4 days, go down to Costa Rica. Mama needs to get to the beach, celebrate him, right? But it's like, who's going to watch the kids for that if, our folks are not able to do that? And that's our specific example, but I think for a lot of people, it's like, I don't know how to do that logistically. Or what happens if my kids are still really young and just for this season, it's not forever, but like for this season, we can't leave 2 kids under 2 with the grandparents or whatever and go away for a whole week. So what do you recommend when people say, I hear you, I want that, I don't know how to make that work?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it is hard.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be for everyone. And you said it so well, in this season. So maybe in this season, a staycation, maybe that actually looks like bringing the kids along, but you're still having that time together.
Oh, away from work
Yeah.
or the business
Yes.
or whatever you're building.
Maybe it even looks like everybody's staying in and having family time and making it exciting, making it different in this season.
Yeah.
So it's really about connecting with your partner. And so, yeah, it's not always going to be, we're going to go away to Costa Rica for a week and have this romantic beach vacation.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I also do think that people have more options than they might be willing to look at sometimes.
Yeah, say more about that.
Sometimes there's some creative ways to make that happen. And again, this depends on age of kids, it depends on the community you live in, but sometimes maybe it looks like if your children have friends that they're close with and you'd feel comfortable with them spending the night there. And then, hey, guess what? Next couple months later, you repay, and that friend stays with you while their parents have
I love that.
some time
why
away.
have I never thought of that?
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to how people used to raise children with the community, and not that it's easy and something like quickly put into place, but just trying to get creative with it. Trying to get creative with, hey, is there a friend where my child could spend the night with this friend for a night, or maybe one of the grandparents can come in town. Just getting creative with that if it's possible. And then again, if not, the seasons is huge. Like maybe in this season, our trips look like the family vacation we're doing over the summer, but we're going to be intentional to be with each other. Maybe we're going to hold hands while we're going to Disneyland with the kids, and
Or the kids are in their
time.
own room and we get a big enough place so you can have some space and you're not on top of each other.
Yeah, so really just getting creative with it.
Yeah. I love that for me, it brought up going back to community because this is one of those areas where more than one thing can be true at the same time. I have felt so long that everybody says, oh, it takes a village to raise a family. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody tells you got to pay for the damn village.
Yeah, where's my village?
Where's my village? And it's expensive. And so while that is true, especially if you don't have family close by or aging parents, at the same time, that can be true. And there is still community there for you, to your point about like, if I'm willing to let my kid sleep over at someone's house, how do we do a swap? Or even, hey, your boys come to our house with my boys after school, right down the street from school.
Yeah.
Hey, they come over and hang out with us Fridays. You guys can go do, 2 hours together Friday before you go into mommy and daddy mode. And then maybe we could switch. So that's a good reminder of, even though it's more and more we have to pay for our community, if we are intentional in building relationships or kids' friends or kids' parents who are in the exact same spot we are, how do we help each other out? That's a good reminder. I totally have not been thinking about that.
Yeah, this was actually, I saw this in action through a very good friend of mine years ago. We were at a friend's birthday party. So all the kids were running around, and this friend of mine has 4 children, all fairly young at the time.
Bless them.
And so I had 2 young daughters at the time. Well, still do, but they're just not as young now 2 teenagers. So we're at this party, and I'm talking to my friend and her husband, and one of the kids runs up and says, hey, can I spend the night at, whoever's house was right there? And they said, well, yeah, sure, you can. And so they decide that he's going to go home with this other family after the party. A little bit later, the daughter runs up. Hey, can I have a sleepover tonight? By the end of the conversation, all 4 of her kids were going to other people's houses. All she did was stand there and have her kids run up and ask for permission. And I looked at her and said,
that's great.
How did that just happen? She's like, looks like we have a date night.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love the inspiration for that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, just seeing that in action and seeing that, yes, it's about getting creative. It's about getting creative and leaning into the people that want to help, which can also be difficult too for some overachievers and very successful people. Sometimes asking for help can be difficult.
Yeah. And so maybe that goes back into, so we talked about priority and planning, and you work with, a lot of really high performance, high power couples. So it's priorities, but then it sounds like there might also be another common theme of asking for help, that's maybe
Yeah.
not a muscle that people have built.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Asking for help. Just leaning into it, leaning into the people around.
What are some of the other common patterns, themes, topics that come up that, are part of your high-powered love method?
One other thing that I see coming up, it's not approaching it like a team. So you might have a couple where one of the partners is going to reach for this new goal that they have at work that they really want to do. And they're very involved in that and maybe not bringing their partner along for the journey. So really bringing each other along for your journeys outside of the home, outside of the relationship. Bringing them along for, hey, today I have this meeting today for this thing that I'm excited for. Bringing them along for the little stuff. So then when you get to the big thing that you're reaching for, they were your teammate all along. They were there all along for it.
Yeah.
And the hard thing with this is a lot of times if someone is very involved in their career, they're spending a lot of time with coworkers. They're talking to coworkers a lot. And sometimes what I see happen is they're telling coworkers more than they're telling their partner.
Ooh.
And it might start off innocent enough, but then you're creating this disconnect with your partner. So now you're having this emotional connection to people at work who know more about these big projects that you're doing. And meanwhile, your partner's at home not really knowing all the details. And not that they need to know everything, but not feeling like they're along for the journey. And that really creates more distance. And it's such a slippery slope because I like to refer to it as like in the gray. We talk about there's cheating, or there's the term now that's been said more like micro cheating.
Oh, okay.
But I think all of it, like you just want to stay out of the gray. You want to stay out of the gray area where you're sharing more with other people than you're sharing with your partner.
Yeah.
When it comes to like reaching new goals, new successes, things that you're striving for. So bringing your partner along so it doesn't end up being someone else that is coming along for the emotional part of it.
Yeah. And even if it's not romantic, but just having, right, if for the framing that we have, right, if I'm the witness to your journey, I need to know what's happening in the journey. And I wonder too, if you find couples that put so much significance in their individual careers, and because they're sharing so much experience at work and not at home, that when work becomes the problem, or there's overwhelm, or there's burnout, it's even harder to step away because that's where their worth, their significance, their friendships are, because they weren't spending the time building friends or building that relationship with their partner. Like there's a greater sense of loss if they've attached more things to work in their career. I could be totally making that up, but that's
no, you're spot on with that, and especially when when the sense of self-worth is connected to what we're doing.
Yeah,
it can be really hard to step away from that. You might be at work and feel like you're king of the world at work, and then you come home and you might not feel that same satisfaction. So where are you probably going to want to spend more time? You might even want to spend more time at work where you feel more alive, more of the winner. So it's about like really creating that space at home where you're cheering each other on, encouraging each other, and talking about the little things. You can celebrate the little wins along the way. So you have that sense of being seen at home, being heard, like recognized for what's going on.
Yeah. Is there anything else, and particularly anything, given that this audience are people in that season of fullness right now, big careers, building businesses, kids, all the things happening right now, are there any other areas particularly unique to high achieving couples that you would want almost for people to like just shine a light on? Maybe they don't even have a problem, or they're doing well, but they want to keep what they have going. Like, what other areas would you shine a light on besides the priorities and making sure that person's coming along the journey?
I think really the piece about, so when you're there and you're with your partner, one of the scariest things that can happen is to say, we're fine.
Oh,
We're fine.
okay. Say more about that.
There is no fine. I don't believe that a relationship is fine. I believe that in every relationship, you are either actively growing, getting closer, learning, or you're secretly consenting to the fall of a relationship, the dismantling of a relationship, the greater distance in a relationship. So if you look at it that way, that you're either growing or a relationship is creating greater distance, one of the scariest things I think a couple can say is we're fine. Because I believe that behind every statement of we're fine, there is an unmet need, an unspoken desire, an unresolved issue to be addressed. Maybe by one person, maybe by both.
Yeah.
So really just being intentional about growing together and checking in with each other, being curious. Like learn to be an expert on your partner, but always be curious
Yeah.
because we're always changing and growing. So how can you really maintain that curiosity so you don't get stuck in the we're fine? And maybe that curiosity is, what are you needing from me? What can we do together to grow together? Maybe we're going to read some book together. We're going to go to some personal growth seminar. We're going to sign up for some online course. We're going to watch some show or listen to some podcast. So really being curious to continue to grow so you don't get stuck in that we're fine.
Listening to this podcast episode with your spouse. So
Yes, exactly.
sending it to them and talking about it.
Yes, for sure. Because, and that might even sound scary to some. I'm sure some people are cringing like, oh no, I feel like we're fine. Maybe we're not fine. Now what?
Yeah.
But I think that's where the truth is. The truth is in the part where it is kind of jarring to hear that. And hopefully it starts the conversations of, what are we needing right now? What are we needing in this season?
Yeah.
What am I needing from my partner? What are they needing from me?
Yeah.
How can we show up better for each other?
And what would you say, or give me your feedback on this? What would you say to couples or people listening that are like, well, I'm good, but it's my spouse that's spending too much at work? You know, our marriage is fine. Maybe the fine. I love that. I wrote that down. I circled that, all of that. But that is often about the other person. It's they are doing blah, blah, blah. And that's why we're not where we want to be. When that's the case, or maybe their spouse isn't ready to look at their stuff as well, do you recommend that people go inward of like, what is in my control, and looking, if you are having those thoughts yourself of like, well, what is my part in this, and who am I? Or how do you break through that dynamic? Because sometimes it's the high performers and we love each other. We are totally aligned. It's just, we are in a season and it's really busy. And so we're looking for tools and tactics to make this a priority.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another camp of maybe the like, who are we being, and we're not in a great place, and maybe blaming the other person that has been too distant. They didn't come along for the journey. Where do you start there for couples?
Well, it's something I hear so often.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't doing this. They're doing this. They're spending too much time at work. So I could talk about this for a long time, but I'm going to just say a couple things about it.
Yes, absolutely.
One piece is, yes, own your accountability. Like, what is your accountability in that? Like, what can you offer more in that situation? Like, there's two people in this relationship. Well, in the one that I'm talking about, there's two people in this relationship, and so what can they both do? So first of all, looking at what your part is in the relationship, and then two, it takes two people to start a habit in a relationship. But change can happen with one. It only takes one person to make a shift. So if that one person starts doing something differently, a lot of times it will be the catalyst for the other person to do something differently. And so maybe like with the example of maybe, well, my partner works all the time. Okay, well, how are you when they're home? Like what can you do differently? And this isn't to place blame also on that person, but like is it a happy place to be when they're home? Are you inviting them in for conversation when they're home? Just looking at all the little things. And sometimes they really are just working a lot. So there is that piece too. But that's just the example of how can you show up in a space that invites them to come in more? And there's several layers to this too. Like, when someone walks in the door, are they getting criticized a lot? Are they getting told you have to do this? Are they getting a laundry list of chores? That doesn't sound that fun of an environment to walk into.
Yeah.
So finding different ways to, create a space that is welcoming, is inviting.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, right? Everybody's situation is different, and there's no one right way to do this. And this is why you have a whole practice of where people come to see you, and right, people do their individual therapy and they come together as a couple, because it can be messy, it can be complicated, because everybody has different backstories.
It's all so different.
But for people listening that are like, I am really curious about what she's talking about. I want to learn more. I know that you have coming soon this summer, the high-powered love method coming out. Tell people what that is about, what they can expect, and then where they can find you on social.
So you said it so well, that everything is so different. Everybody's situation is so different. So there's the therapy component that people can do. But I started realizing that when I was working with people with a lot of the similar stories underneath and a lot of similar complaints, I started applying a lot of the same tactics and giving resources and tools that were kind of foundational for a lot of work that comes afterwards. So I have created a course that I'm going to offer that people can purchase the online course and then do some of the work on their own in the comfort of their own home, the privacy of their own home, their own timeline, and do that with their partner. So they can really start to do the foundational piece of some of these things. And then from there, determine where a deeper dive might be needed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. When this launches, we will make sure to let everybody know when it comes out. So they can follow your journey and watch for it to drop. Where do they find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at HeatherClark_LA. And I will be releasing some more information about it as it gets closer. It's been something that is very near and dear to my heart, because I am such a believer that relationships really affect everything. If we are happy and fulfilled in relationships, it overflows in everything. So I just want to help everybody heal and everybody love better and bigger and have these incredible relationships. So it's been very fun.
And I so appreciate you. Thank you for sharing this. I know there are people listening that will want to share this with their spouse or other people they know, and that this will be a really great spot for a lot of couples who really desired how to make that part of their life a priority. So thank you so much, Heather.
Yes, thank you so much. I've loved this and love to talk with you more, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into this episode today. And remember, friends, there is no one right way to do this thing called life. I hope you found this conversation valuable. Please make sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you may listen. And it would mean the world to me if you went and you clicked on rate the show and left a 5-star rating to help other people find these conversations. Until then, friends, keep experimenting. Talk to you soon.